little drawing of a bullfight, or I should say a watercolor, painted by Claude, pour mon papa chéri. An owl on a ceramic. A kite that Picasso made, dated 1956. Sculpture made out of pipes and bits and pieces from the studio. Little landscape from the top floor, which he then used as the studio where he painted Las Meninas. According to Sidney Picasso, this is a secret portrait of Francois Gillot. Well, I learnt a lot of things about Picasso and the way he thinks from making this painting. Francois Gillot, who is seen in this painting called The Shadow in the middle. There she is lying on a bed. Picasso's shadow is hanging over her as he watches her from coming into the room, sees her naked on the bed, and his shadow falls over her, and not long after that she had left him. Again, here she is, pregnant in the sculpture. Francois Gillot recounts a story of how a few years before Picasso had given some of his paintings to the Louvre, and the director of the Louvre invited him to come and see how his paintings held up against the great masters of the past. And according to Francois, he was very nervous. And they went and they put some of his paintings next to Delacroix's paintings, and the head of the Louvre said, "See, they hold up." Then he went upstairs, they all went upstairs, and they put some of his paintings next to Velasquez's paintings. And then he was really nervous. He was sweating profusely, and the director said, "Look, they hold up." Well, during this period, when he met Jacqueline, he first painted her over and over, looking like one of the women in Delacroix's famous Women of Algiers painting. He then began to make some paintings of his studio, and he then began to paint his new muse in the studio. And what I found was that he was actually beginning to decorate his studio to look like Velasquez's studio, because shortly after this period he left all of the studio down on the ground floor as it is. He went up to the very top floor and he painted, I think 30 or 40 different versions of Las Meninas. Now, Las Meninas is perhaps Velasquez's greatest painting. It's probably the greatest ever studio painting that's ever been painted. And it's a very complex painting. Picasso's father had taken him to the Prado when he was 14 years old to see this painting, and probably said something like, "This is the greatest painting there ever was, and this maybe will never be as great as this painter." Well, here is Velasquez. He's painting the Infanta, the young princess, in the reflection in the mirror in the background of the king and queen, which means they must be standing outside the painting looking at Velasquez. Well, it's a very complicated painting, and it's hard to know how Velasquez is actually in the painting himself. So notice the windows on the right hand side. There's a little bit of light coming in from them, not very much. Notice the Chamberlain and the doorway in the background. Notice the dog. Notice Velasquez standing next to his easel, an immense canvas on the easel. Notice in the background the paintings on the wall by Rubens. Rubens here is painting about the ancient arts, tapestry, pottery, stonework. So Velasquez is thinking about Rubens, who in turn was thinking about the ancient arts. Now we turn to Picasso's painting of Las Meninas. here we have his first painting, the largest of all of the paintings. And here we see suddenly Velázquez 15 feet high next to his easel. Critics have never quite understood why he painted him exactly like that. Notice the Chamberlain in the doorway has now become a shadow. Critics again have thought maybe that's Picasso in the doorway. Notice the dog on the floor. It's clearly not the King and Queen of Spain's dog anymore. It's Lump, Picasso's dog. Notice the windows on the right-hand side. They're all open and light is pouring in from them. Now we go to Picasso's own studio. You see this row of windows. Light is flooding in from them. We see the shadow painting that he's placed on the wall, its own shadow. We see next to the easel on the left-hand side this huge mirrored door, which Picasso loved to look in the door and paint from looking at the reflection of things. Like to check his work in the mirror as well, no doubt. Well, that mirror is 15 feet high above the easel on the left-hand side. So, one of the things I deduced was that Picasso, by painting Velázquez 15 feet high and actually faceted like this mirror, was offering an explanation to Velázquez's very complicated painting. He was saying, not only is an artist a mirror of all of society, but that Velázquez must have been looking in another mirror placed next to the King and Queen outside of the painting in order to be able to paint himself into the painting. And so it was Picasso's black and white painting of Las Meninas offered us a clue of what he thought about Las Meninas. So while I am making this painting of Picasso's studio, I couldn't help thinking that Picasso himself was decorating his studio and thinking about Velázquez. He was about to make all these paintings based on Velázquez's Las Meninas. And at that time, while Picasso was thinking about Velázquez, Velázquez was thinking about Rubens, and Rubens was thinking about the ancient arts, and so it goes on. That's how one generation of painters leaves something to the next generation. And that's really what my paintings are about. They're about the continuity of painting. Inspiration, where it comes from, ideas, how they come from other artists before us. And so on and so forth.